Boston Sports Entertainment Network. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and as always, leave a comment, and thank you for enjoying the video.
I got the Boston Celtics going to the finals. I got them winning without.
It's time to represent your city. Put your hands up. Cali, you know we do it for Boston. Hey, ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah, hey, can't nobody do it like Boston. Where the legends get made, where the banners get raised, bright lights, big stage. Boston. All the fire we bring in a city full of rings, it's a beautiful thing out in Boston. And you ain't hard like that, you don't put it on the line with your squad like that. That's right, Boston. All we do is win like cigars in the gym, and we at it again. I say, Beantown, what's up? What's up? 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 Feel the energy shift, now we jumping at the gym. Represent, showing out how we ball above the rim. Larry Legend, 86, to the truth in '08. Cement your name with the all-time greats. Still matter 18 in the Raptors. Celtic green, only green that matters. It's about that time. Ain't another city that's louder than mine. Always gonna shine with the game on the line. What you think was gonna happen, man? That's how we do it in Boston. Ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah. Can't nobody do it like Boston.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of Dynasty Proud on Boston Sports Entertainment Network. My name is Alex. This is my co-host Jason, and we'll be bringing you Celtics Weekly podcast here on the network. So a little bit about me. I'm originally from Boston and then moved down to Miami right after college. Never lost my diehard sports fan for Boston sports teams, particularly the Celtics. I try to come back up to Boston whenever I can. I was just there this past week, saw 3 games in 4 nights, 3 victories. Always go to the games down here in Miami wearing my Celtic green with all the Heat fans. So very proud to be part of this network, and me and Jason are going to be taking you on the Celtics journey throughout the season.
My name is Jason. My passion for the Celtics started for the 2008 season, seeing Kevin Garnett, Kendrick Perkins, Rondo, Allen play. That really got me going. I was never really that good at basketball growing up. Baseball was my first sport. So it was great to see the Celtics win and do what they're going to do. So I'm excited for the season. I'm excited to be part of this podcast.
So what we're going to cover today is the current state of the team, what grades we would give them so far in the season, a little bit of around a third of the way through it. We're going to talk about our thoughts on the in-season tournament that just finished up. We're going to talk about how our newcomers, Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, are fitting into the team, the upcoming West Coast road trip, which will begin tomorrow night in Golden State, and our expectations for the team on the trip. And then finally, we're going to bring some trade deadline rumors, ideas, and thoughts that we have. So without further ado, let's get into it. Jason, what would you grade the state of the Celtics so far? What are your thoughts on the season as compared to expectations? And yeah.
So right now I'd give them an A. I think right now, I mean, them being 20-5, they've beaten all the teams they're supposed to. They've gone up against tough teams, faced them pretty well. I'd say the only blemish, I think, would be their in-season tournament loss to the Pacers. And, but so far, I mean, I'd give them an A. And, I think they've done pretty well so far. How about you, Alex?
So I like A. I would say A or A minus. I think they're going through the season the way they have to. And I like how, they're giving guys days off when they need it. Like, they're not overworking Porzingis. They haven't moved Al Horford off of the back-to-backs. They're being very cautious with the players because at the end of the day, it's about being ready for April, for May, for June, for the long haul. So that's what's important to me. But watching the product on the floor, they just look seamless. Like, you wouldn't even know that this team was just put together before the season. Obviously, you have the staples of Tatum and Brown, but Porzingis and Drew Holiday, when you look at some of the other teams like Milwaukee or other teams that are implementing newcomers, and you're hearing, give them time to gel, give them time to, be more cohesive. And you see what the Celtics are doing right out of the gate, where they just look like they've been playing together for years as a team. And I think that's a big part of, bringing in adults into the room and people that are, old enough where it's not about me. It's not about stats. It's about winning. So at the end of the day, I think it's an A. And Joe Mazzulla looks the part. He looks like he's grown as a coach. We beefed up the staff with Sam Cassell and Charles Miles. So I really like what I've seen from the team so far. I mean, I've been very impressed.
I would say another thing too is I heard a comment from Jaylen Brown the other night saying no one on the team has to score 30 a night. Like they play so well together. They share the ball more than last year. Drew Holiday being, that staple at point guard, an upgrade, I think, over Marcus Smart. KP being what I think we hoped Robert Williams would be. And this team just looks seamlessly. I mean, they're playing team basketball, playing great defense, sharing the ball, doing what they need to do. So far, I mean, they've been doing pretty well.
Yeah, I love what I've seen so far from them. They see growth and maturity in their games, and I've seen a lot less with Tatum and Brown this year, isolation-heavy basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's times when it does happen, and so the only reason I'd say A- as opposed to an A is in their few losses this year, the Indiana game and the Charlotte game and the Minnesota game, at the very end of the fourth quarter, they still reverted back to, my turn, your turn. But with the exception of that, a lot of the games haven't even gotten to that point. Like if you look at the Cleveland games from this past week where they were close games early in the fourth quarter and the Celtics just put them away and never let it get close because they were playing team-centric basketball. So I really like what I've seen. I think they all see the eyes on the prize of what's down the road and getting good habits and building it through the team and everyone being involved. Tatum doesn't have to score 40 or 50 points like stars on other team for them to have a shot to win because the team is just so well built. And, and if he could do it, like there's a lot of times like he's being guarded by someone that, he can go past them. He can force a tough shot because, he has that in his game, but it's about what's best for the team. He's making the right pass. He's taking better quality shots. And that's why, even though his scoring average is down, his efficiency is up.
If I have a question for you. So at the end of the game, say there's like 2 minutes left, you need a guy to take a shot. Would you rather it be Tatum or would you rather them try to do a team play where everybody touches the ball? Because I feel like, in my opinion, if the Celtics are in a close game and, we need a basket, for me, I want the ball in Jason Tatum's hands. And instead of like doing like the team, like everybody pass the ball, because I feel like sometimes that can create nervousness and like jitters where like I feel like if JT has the ball, like I'd give him that shot. So I just want to know like what you think. If you think that's the same way or maybe play more of a team style at the end of the game.
Well, I think naturally you want to revert back to your superstar. Jason Tatum's the top 10 player in this league, maybe top 5 player in this league. As far as a scorer, he's as good as there is in the game. So obviously that's the first aspect that you want to go to Jason. But the fact that we have so many weapons on offense, it's not like, it's if you remember the 2021-22 series versus the Nets where Jason Tatum was playing with guys that are out of the league right now. And they took down the super team Nets in a game where he had to be superhuman to be able to do it. He's has the luxury. He doesn't have to do that anymore. So you can't double team him because you're going to leave, amazing offensive players open and you don't want to do that. So because of that, his one-on-one matchup gets even easier. Yeah, he may draw their best defender, but you have so many guys that can shoot from the perimeter, that can score inside, that you have to respect them, that you can't leave anybody open. So yes, I would like the ball in Tatum's hands, but I also trust him to make the right play. If he were to get double teamed, that he's not going to just force it over the double team, that he'll make the right basketball play. But 5 seconds left, I want him with the ball, of course.
No, I'd completely agree. I just think, when Tatum at the end of the game, I need the ball in his hands because I know sometimes when we see them play at the end of the game, they get jittery, they start passing the ball. It more happened like when Marcus Smart was on the floor, it seemed to me, because like he'd make like the wrong pass, the other team would steal it, they'd go down and score. So I don't know. To me, I want JT or maybe even JB to have ball at the end of the game. But I do want to talk about the in-season tournament because to me, like I just want to know like your overall feel of how you liked it. Did it live up to expectations? The courts, tell me a little bit about the in-season tournament. Like, did you like it or no?
So naturally, when they first announced it as an idea last year, I thought, it's kind of like a joke. Like, how is anybody going to take this seriously? Like, no one's going to care. No one's going to respect it. Once you got into it, you could absolutely see a different level of competition in the games. It brought an extra, like some juice to the games, in early November that otherwise wouldn't have had that. So for me, particularly for a team like Indiana, which is why I think they did so well in it, it meant more to them. A guy like Tyrese Halliburton, that's a star, doesn't get the national limelight the way other stars do. So like he only had one nationally televised game prior to this tournament. So it's like a metric to shine. On top of that, the financial incentive, particularly for younger guys. So you're going to have guys that are going to play extra hard. Obviously, they want to win regardless, but it's the financial incentive as well. But for me, it was just it was really good. But I also think it's not as important to win that as it is to be ready for the playoffs. So I would have never have wanted to be like, okay, well, Porzingis has a leg injury, but you have to force him out there because we can't lose the in-season tournament. Because at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. And I always joke that with the Celtics, if they got in the in-season tournament, because of the regard people have for the Celtics on Twitter, is that if they win the in-season tournament, it's gonna be like, well, this is the banner that they can win, the only thing they can win. And if they lose, it was gonna be, well, typical Celtics, choking. But I think it was really cool to have that. It was a playoff atmosphere, especially in Indiana, and especially down the stretch. It was just back and forth before we let go of the rope. It was a lot of fun. But to touch on the courts, I think that's something that definitely needs some revamping. So just from a visual aspect of it, some of them look kind of cool, but like, for example, Toronto, when we played them, I thought the court looked really cool. It almost had like a Drake OVO type of feel to it, but everyone's slipping all over it. And no matter how cool you want the court to look, it can't come at the expense of potential injury to the players, because then that's going to set this back and it's going to not make people want to play in it or play as hard in it. So I also think some of the courts were a visual eyesore. Like there were some that were just so bright red.
Yeah. I mean, the courts to me looked cool. I think the only one I didn't like were the Pelicans courts. Like the blue and red just didn't match. I always know the Pelicans as like the dark blue and yellow. So for me, I just didn't understand like that colorway. But for me, the in-season tournament, like I liked it. It added juice that I didn't think was going to be there for some reason. When you think of like the in-season tournament, you think, oh, play it. Maybe they're not going to try as hard. But they really, I don't know if it was Kevin Durant or Devin Booker. Someone said like they're playing for the guys at the end of the bench that get like this stipend of, I think it's $500,000 or whatever the amount.
For the winners, yeah.
For the winners, yeah. So, getting those guys that extra money, like that means a lot to them. It's not really going to mean much to Kevin Durant or Booker or Tatum or whatnot to get an extra $500K when they're making $30+ million a year. But for those guys, it matters. So I think we saw that, those guys playing hard for those guys. But I completely agree with your statement about the courts, like the slipping and all that. They got to figure out, if maybe it's the material or, the court just needs to be broken in more. But I thought it was good. The Celtics, they played well. Obviously, Indiana was just on a tear. They were playing unbelievable. Halliburton went off. Hield was shooting out of his mind. I think he had 6 or 7 threes against the Celtics or something like that, which I feel like he always does that. But it is what it is. We don't want that. We don't want the in-season tournament. We want the real thing. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
I feel like it was a cool aspect to be able to have that level of competition this early in the season. But another thing a lot of people need to take away is, of course, they lost. You wanted to win that game. But, you can't look at – obviously, we played Indiana earlier in the season without Halliburton. We won by over 50 points. But you can't look at it like, oh, well, the Indiana beat us in a one-game, so to speak, playoffs. That's not really the playoffs. So that means we're going to have trouble with them in a series. It's different when you actually have a series. And then you have a team like the Celtics that's been there before, that's done that has the experience, that knows what it's like in the playoffs. The playoffs is a whole different stage in the in-season tournament, especially at the end of the season. You have all those miles in your legs. You have the eyes on the prize. I feel like a team like Indiana, those lights will be too big for them in a series. Like, I loved watching them play. They're a fun team to watch play, watching them play against Milwaukee and just the style that they play. But I don't feel like they have the defense, especially in a half-court more centric game, which it becomes in the playoffs, to win more than even one game off of my Boston or Milwaukee come playoff time.
It also seemed like when I was watching the in-season tournament, like the lower level teams, like the Indiana, Orlando, like their fans and those teams, like they were juiced for this tournament for some reason. I don't know what it was, but I don't know if you saw the Indiana versus Bucks game, like that crowd for Indiana was like crazy. Like they were going nuts. And, it just shows that like for those teams, it meant more, versus maybe like the higher end teams. I know the Lakers won it ultimately, but it just seemed maybe the Celtics and Bucks had their eyes on a bigger prize. But it is what it is. But I do want to pivot to Drew and KP, because they're going to be two of the biggest factors for this team moving forward. I know KP's health, when we traded for him back in June, was, first things questions was, oh, can he stay healthy for all 82? Can he be that force that we need, over Rob Williams? Can Drew, when we traded for him, can he be that guy over Marcus Smart to give us that defensive, competitive edge and juice back? Because without Marcus Smart, you don't have Marcus Smart, where's your defense come from point guard? I know Derek White is pretty good. I know Pritchard can give you solid minutes, but we needed that dog. Just want to know like your thoughts on, Drew and KP and, how they're doing this season and what you expect for them going forward.
I was so ecstatic to get Drew Holiday, because just like Brad Stevens in the press conference, that's somebody I wanted for years. When New Orleans was open to moving him and there was talks about, Kemba Walker and picks going there, and he ended up going to Milwaukee. He was so important in that team winning the championship. Obviously, Giannis but he was the head of the snake over there, running the offense, and having somebody like that in big moments. And I love Marcus Smart, don't get me wrong, but having somebody that will make the right play versus I feel like a lot of times Marcus Smart, the Tatum and Brown would defer to him in those big moments where that's not who you want taking the shot. Like there's a lot of fourth quarters, especially come playoff time, where Marcus Smart is taking all the shots at the end of the game. Like for example, game 7 against Miami in the year that they did make the finals in 2022. So I feel like having somebody like Drew Holiday orchestrate that offense and then being just as good, if not a better defender than Marcus Smart is very important. And then having someone like Kristaps Porzingis just completely changes the offense. Having a guy that's that size that is just unguardable. You can't block his shot. He can score down low and post-ups, mid-range, three-pointers, step-back three-pointers. It just revitalizes the offense. So what's really important is making sure we're healthy come April, May, and June. So as much as I'd love to see him out there every game, and he did play 65 games last year, and that includes, towards the end of the season when the Wizards were out of it, where they kind of shut him down. He played the most games he's ever played last year. So just having him at full strength. So there's already talk about, we're going to get into our West Coast trip, that he may not play tomorrow, which honestly, if he doesn't, feel anything, like I don't mind him not playing all the back-to-backs. Like I want him rested, healthy. So, maybe he plays for, a couple weeks in a row and then you give him a few days off. Just keep him healthy, keep him rested, because Kristaps Porzingis being healthy through our playoff run gives us the highest ceiling in the NBA. And that's my thoughts with our starting 5, that if they're healthy, I don't see anybody touching us with the current rosters.
No, I completely agree. I think KP is going to be one of the biggest keys to this offense. I remember in his press conference, he was talking, he was like, if I'm the third option, like that's great for me because JT and Brown are going to get the double coverages. They're going to get the most attention. KP is going to be sitting on the wing, wide open to do what he does. And if he's your third option, I mean, you're a pretty good basketball team. When Drew was available, when he got traded to the Trailblazers, for some reason, I thought I was like, all right, the Heat are going to get him because I didn't think the Celtics, necessarily needed him at the start of the season, at least. So maybe by the trade deadline, maybe you go out and you get a veteran point guard to hold it down. So I was definitely surprised when Brad pulled especially trading like Rob Williams like that. I did not see that coming. But I think Drew for this team, he's changed our defensive, who we are. I know Marcus Smart, was that guy. And, I completely agree with what you said. Marcus Smart would take up these threes and, the kind of unnecessary threes. But at the same time, Drew's that steady, person behind Tatum to take the ball, do what he needs to do. And, I mean, I love the move by Brad. And, KP should be pretty good too.
I just love how seamlessly they fit into the team. Like there hasn't been a period where you just felt like, okay, these guys have never played together pretty much since day one. And I think it's the buy-in from guys that are veterans, guys that have been around. From Drew Holiday, it's someone that's, that's a champion, that's been there, that's done that. And, he's getting traded over. He probably feels a little bit a type of way towards Milwaukee. And then he sees, the biggest rival that has, eliminated them before. And that, he's still on a championship level team, possibly even better now. And then Porzingis, he's never had a shot at a real championship with the teams he had. I mean, they should have been better in Dallas, but that was never a true championship contender. And obviously the Wizards, they weren't going anywhere. So just the buy-in from them, the team looks great. Their ceiling is very high. And I love how everyone's just a two-way player on the team. Like everybody can defend. Everyone can guard their yard, so to speak. So I just love watching this team play. They're a fun team to watch play.
So I do have a question for you. Talking about Drew Holiday, I believe he only has one more year on his contract left. Is it this year or is it the year after? I believe he has one more full year, right?
I believe this is his contract year this year. Now, there's a point in the season, and I have to check the date where he is eligible for an extension. So hopefully, Brad has already figured everything out, like what the cap number is. He's already talked with Drew and his people to make it work. Whereas Porzingis, he extended for 2 additional years at a very team-friendly deal. In the open market, he would definitely have gotten a lot more than, I believe, the $30 million or so they're paying him each year for the next 2 years. So I'm hoping Holiday will do that as well to be able to keep the team together. And come this summer, we can re-up Derek White, whose number keeps growing and growing by the day. Yeah. Like this team, as we mentioned in the roundtable, they're all in for this year and really the next 2 to 3 years. But I feel like you have to keep this team. Like a guy like Derek White, you can't lose him. He's just he's the glue to everything this team does. He's the most selfless player on the team. He's such a versatile defender, versatile offensive player. He can shoot, he can drive. When Drew Holiday's not guarding the best player, he'll guard the best player, chase down blocks. So like the core of this team is just set up so well for success. that you just have to keep all the pieces.
So I believe at Drew's press conference, Brad said it was like 6 months before you could talk to Drew about like a number or like contract negotiations. So I feel like that should be coming up soon where they can talk. But you mentioned Derek White, so this kind of brings up a better point. If the Celtics have to choose one, let's say they can't pay both, and you got to choose one, who would you choose?
Derek White.
Derek White.
Derek White, he's younger. I feel like he has more prime years left than Drew Holiday. So for that reason alone, if you have to choose one, then that's the one. Obviously, you did give up a haul to be able to acquire Drew. You give the multiple first-round picks, including that Golden State pick, which looks better every single day with the mess that's going on over there. Our 2029 pick, Rob Williams, who was injury prone as well, but, love Rob. But between the two, I feel like Derek White is the answer between those two. Hopefully they can keep them both at least for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
But, it would have been great to have gotten Derek extended before the year. But I feel like you almost see the extra hunger that he has to even prove himself even more this year, that he doesn't already have that contract in place. He's not getting complacent. His game has gotten better. Feels like every month since he's become a Celtic. And then with each additional kid he just gets to a new level. And yeah, Derek White, as I told him at the meet and greet, I hope he's a Celtic for life because he's like the perfect Celtic. He plays selflessly, he plays team ball, gritty. So Derek White would be my answer there.
I'm 100% with you. I think Derek White is the answer. I know obviously we gave up a ton for Drew Holiday, but his play, he does all the little things that don't show up on a stat sheet. There was a play against, I think it was Orlando, where it was like everybody's already running back on defense, and he ran, popped the ball out of the center's hand, went up, then shot up a spot three, for extra points. Those are the plays that matter, at least for me when I'm watching. Obviously, it'd be tough to lose Drew. You don't want to lose a guy like that, especially after the haul you gave up. But I'm completely with you. I would definitely keep Derek White over Drew Holiday. And then turning to KP, I know we signed him for 2 more years. But I'm not going to lie to you. I was not a fan of his trade when it happened because I think giving up Marcus Smart, I just wasn't for it. I don't know. It was just his liability and his durability really gave me questions, but he's making me eat my words right now. So I guess it's all fine. So moving to the West Coast trip, I believe we play Golden State, right? And then LA.
So we play Golden State and then we play Sacramento on a back-to-back.
That's right. Sacramento. I'm thinking for some reason I'm thinking Kings. I see the Bruins flag in my background. I'm thinking Kings. So what's your hopes out of seeing for this West Coast trip? You looking for wins? You looking for, just reliability? You looking for consistency? What are you looking for out of this trip?
So wins and health, of course. The biggest thing, you'd love to go 4-0, but the expectation can't be if we don't go 4-0 that, the road trip's a failure, because it's not. It's very, very tough to do that. But what you would like to see is consistency. You want to stay injury-free throughout it. And that's why, with Porzingis being questionable for tomorrow, I don't mind if he sits out because we already know Horford's not going to be playing the second end of the back-to-back in Sacramento. And you look at the big men for the Golden State Warriors, Kevon Looney's not really an offensive threat. They don't have Draymond Green right now. So if that's the night to give him a rest so that the next night we're playing Sabonis, we have a big man to go up against him. I would like to personally win on Christmas against the Lakers. I feel like to me that's a must win. But at the end of the day, it's also the last game of a long road trip on Christmas, so anything could happen there. Christmas has gone well for us last year, so hopefully that continues. But I'd say 2-2 can be the worst. They need to win one of the first two. You can't start off the road trip like that.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know why the Clippers just looks like one that I feel very confident about tomorrow night, and I actually feel good about Sacramento as well. The only thing is they play a very fast style game, and we'll be on a back-to-back. So those fresher legs running up and down the court could definitely hinder us a little bit, but we got to start it off with a win tomorrow. So every time I see Steph Curry, I just get PTSD from the finals. But, I'd love to see Drew Holiday on him, as opposed to Marcus Smart. The one thing that I've still seen, though, as an area of opportunity from the Celtics is they're still doing drop coverage on three-point shooters. And Steph Curry, as we learned in the finals, is not the guy to do that too. So I'm hoping that Drew Holiday will play a lot of, on-man ball defense and not letting him get those open shots.
So I think on this West Coast trip, I think the toughest team out of these next 2 games between Golden State and Sacramento is actually going to be Sacramento. I've been watching them play. a couple nights now, and they look pretty good. Keegan Murray, I think, shot 12 or 13 threes the other night, which is insane. If that game was close against Utah, he would have came close to Klay Thompson's 18 3-point shot record. And then Sabonis is another guy. He's pretty good. Golden State, to me right now, I know they have the situation going on with Draymond, but they just don't look like the same Golden State team that we're, accustomed to seeing. I know Steph Curry is still pretty good. Klay Thompson can still show up and give you 30. And, Kuminga is a good role player. But, I think we got Golden State. I just think it'd be Sacramento that would give us trouble. And then obviously the Clippers are pretty good. And then playing the Lakers on Christmas is going to be a dogfight, especially on the fourth game of a, road trip out west especially. But I think for me, the biggest thing I'm looking for is just to stay healthy. Maybe split if possible. I'm not looking for a 3-1 or a 4-0. I'd like to split. I think that's reasonable. And, just playing the way that we've been playing. I mean, we've been pretty good. I mean, there's really nothing more like, it's not like we're on like a losing streak or we've, been playing bad. I just, I want to see consistency. If we can be consistent throughout the whole season and avoid like the highs and then like the bad lows, like that's kind of, where you want to be. You want to be consistent.
So far, we have this upcoming West Coast road trip that's a gauntlet. We've already have the number one strength of schedule in the NBA, and we have a 20-5 record. And then we go play Golden State, Sacramento on a back-to-back, then the Clippers, then the Lakers. So the fact that we've been playing like this with that type of schedule, when you look over and every single night Milwaukee and Philly are playing Detroit and Washington or an injured Hornets team again, it almost feels like, well, when do we get to play them? But honestly, having watched the Celtics the last few years, I think it's better to play the tougher teams because I feel like they mentally are more locked in. They're more focused. They bring it. But then, you play a team like Washington or Charlotte, they're missing players. They'll just take the night off. They figure they could just go through the motions, just jack up threes, and that's going to get it done. And then you start giving younger players some confidence. So they lose those type of games. So, hats off to Philly and Milwaukee for taking care of business against teams they should. But, look at Philly. They're 6-7 against teams above 500, whereas the Celtics have the best record in the NBA. So this road trip will definitely be a test. 3-1 or better, and it's a very successful trip. Obviously, knock on wood, there's no injuries. But that's what I'm looking for. 2-2 as the floor, 3-1 or better. Great road trip. So I'm really looking forward to Christmas, watching them, on the big stage against LeBron and AD. So be exciting.
So just to pivot just a little bit, because I know people that may have missed the roundtable don't know who we think are the toughest, matchup for the Celtics come playoff time. I said it was the Bucks just because I think there's a move to be had at the deadline for them. I mentioned Marcus Smart on Saturday night being a person that they could potentially go after to fill that Drew Holiday role. Obviously, they probably have to give up, maybe a piece or two on their current roster and some picks. But just tell the viewers who you think would be the, probably the toughest matchup for the Celtics come playoff time.
So in my answer, I also did mention that Milwaukee, if they were to acquire somebody like Marcus Smart, they would definitely become the scariest to me because that's really what they're missing right now is their defense took a huge hit losing a Drew Holiday. Having a backcourt of Connaughton and Damian Lillard against a Celtics team that they already couldn't defend prior, I just feel very confident in the series against Milwaukee currently. But Miami, it's always going to be Miami to me. Just because the way they play us, they match up very well with us. They're definitely not intimidated by the Celtics. Bolster coaching them, gives them structure, the Heat culture. So that's always just been a thorn in our side for the Celtics. And that's not even to mention the moves the Heat could make, after striking out on Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal early in the summer, not being able to acquire Drew Holiday. So if they were to get somebody, and I'd think of like Donovan Mitchell, like another scoring option. Because you look at Miami, they just get these role players out of nowhere, out of the local LA Fitness, and then just come in and drop 25 bucks in a conference finals game. So if you get someone like Donovan Mitchell, who I just saw up close and personal twice this week, and man, that guy is an elite scorer. Like having him and Jimmy Butler, obviously to get someone like that, Tyler Hero would be on the move, but it seems like he's not around when the big games come anyway. So, but yeah, Miami, no matter who's on that roster, as long as Spoelstra's there and Jimmy Butler's on the floor, that's going to be my answer.
Miami does scare me, especially after, going, through them game 7 and then, multiple times. I think back-to-back years there's game 7. We got out once, they got out once. But I don't know, this year just watching them and seeing, how they're playing, I don't feel the same scare factor as I did, the past 2 years. But obviously that can all change if they get Mitchell or Lauri Markkanen, I guess, is available in Utah. He'd be another guy that I guess would scare you as well. But the Heat, I don't know. They don't rub me the same way, I guess. But if Donovan Mitchell went to the Heat, I mean, that would scare me a ton because as you saw in person this week, Donovan Mitchell's, he's a bad man. he's a bad man. He'll put up 35 in his sleep, 6, 7 threes, and it's over. So I guess moving on to trade deadline stuff. I mean, the Celtics, there's already been some rumors that I don't really remember a time where we were already seeing like, oh, like Brad Stevens is already like active in trade talks or active trying to find bench help. I know today we were exchanging, trade stuff about who could we move money out to bring for a 7th, 8th guy. I like Hauser and Pritchard. Do I think Hauser's going to show up in the playoffs? No. Do I think Pritchard's going to get, actual minutes in the playoffs? No. I would like a vet guy, whether that's a big or a point guard, that has experience in the playoffs to take that role, maybe move Pritchard and Hauser, one spot down the bench. Just give me your thoughts on, who you would like to see. And do you think the Celtics even need to make a move to get a chip?
So Brad Stevens is clearly all in with this team. He still does have draft assets to be able to move. He sees the opportunity right in front of us. Like, every single time there's a rumor, everyone's like, well, how much help does Jason Tatum need? Well, it's like, well, it's great to have a competent GM that is pushing all his chips in the table that wants to win. So the rumor today was Isaiah Stewart from the Detroit Pistons. And so me and you were playing around with the trade machine, seeing what salaries would work. Obviously, you're not moving Horford in a trade like that. And so to match the salary, because he has a poison provision in his contract because he signed the extension. So he's only making $5 million right now, but you would need to match $13 million to send out to be able to acquire him. So you start looking at names. I mean, assuming you keep Hauser in this, you're looking at Peyton Pritchard since he has the largest salary. You're looking at Svi, you're looking at Delano Banton, Lamar Stevens, and I believe there's one other player that gets you to that salary. And so then Detroit has to have the roster space to be able to either take those players or to just waive them, or you get in like a 3-team deal. Let's just say, Sam Presti and the Thunder love picks. So you attach Delano Ben and a protected second rounder and just send them over there. And then they exchange like a top 59 protected second rounder to come back here just to make it an actual trade. There's ways to make it happen if you incentivize Detroit with draft capital. But the big name that I said, and I've wanted since the beginning of the season, and I don't know depends on if they get into a bidding war over him, but Caruso. I think Alex Caruso is the final piece of this team that puts us over the top, that it doesn't even matter at that point if Marcus Smart goes to Milwaukee, if Donovan Mitchell goes to Miami, since they will have to deplete their rosters even further to acquire those players. I think because in the playoffs, you're looking at 7-man roster, 8 at the max, and you already have the best 1 through 6 in the NBA. If you can add Alex Caruso on top of that, maybe, Sam Hauser gets sparing minutes, comes in, as a shooter, get some open looks with the roster that we have. But you get Alex Caruso, who's an elite two-way player, who's a lockdown defender, who can hit timely shots, who will make the right basketball play as well. I think that's our championship right there, provided, knock on wood, health, of course. So he's what I really want. We also both mentioned Lonnie Walker as well as a scoring spark plug off the bench. Someone like Malcolm Brogdon would have been great. We don't have him anymore. But, yeah, scoring guard off the bench that can also defend.
I would say Malcolm Brogdon probably doesn't want to come back here. After what we did to him, he probably, his name was in trade rumors all summer. He eventually did getting traded, probably because he went to Brad Stevens and said, "Listen,
thank the Clippers for that."
Yeah, just get me out of here. But no, I agree. Lonnie Walker or Alex Caruso would definitely put us over the top. One guy that I wish would, he stepped up so far this year, but if Sam Hauser could be, a Duncan Robinson in the playoffs, that solves like a lot of issues that we have, because we chuck up a lot of threes, as a team, between Derek White, Holiday, Tatum, Brown. We're chucking up probably, 30, 25, 30 threes a game, depending on, what's going on. So Sam Hauser could really put it in the bucket in the playoffs. I feel like that would help a lot. But no, Alex Caruso, Lonnie Walker, do we need another big behind Cornette and KP and Al? I mean, I don't know. Al's in the playoffs seems to turn it on a ton. So I don't necessarily worry about him. It'd be mostly KP's wear and tear. And then I don't know. I don't want to see a lot of Cornette in the playoffs. But, he's okay. He's not – I'm not going to, talk crap about him too much. He's been solid this year, more than I think I could have thought he would be. But no, I take Lonnie Walker, Alex Caruso. It wouldn't really be too much. I think another guy that actually just came on the block besides Laurie in Utah is Jordan Clarkson. But I believe he's making a crap ton of money. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is he making $25 a year?
$23 million a year. So that would be impossible to match. And if we had $23 million to match, there's better options out there than Jordan Clarkson. But I mean, someone like that is, like him or a Brogdon, like that type of player that type of offensive, punch off the bench, it would be great to have, but that's not a realistic option unless he got bought out, which won't happen because Danny Ainge is going to get an asset always.
Nah, he'll get probably 2 first-round picks for Jordan Clarkson. I remember a time when he was on the Cavs and he was their 3-point specialist, and too bad his value isn't there, because then I think you probably would be able to snag him up, but make him 23. No way. I don't even think we have the money to match that unless we're trading like KP or somebody, which is never going to happen.
You'd have to start with Horford and your entire bench, and I'm not sure if that even gets you there. So that's obviously not a move that's going to happen.
Probably not. You're not trading Horford at all. The whole fan base would probably go uproar if you traded Al Horford.
It's not just the sentimental value. That's our Giannis defender. That's our Embiid defender. Like, he's not scared of those guys. And, obviously those guys are going to get their numbers, but he makes them work for it, especially Embiid. So he'll punish him all game. Embiid will still end up with 25, 30 points, but come the fourth quarter, since Embiid's just, flopping around all game and falling down every play because Horford's making him work for it, he's just gassed. And so then his shots are short. Then he's just passing off and he's not demanding the ball. So Horford is just so vital to the team. So another thing I think that we need, even if it's not big playoff minutes, is somebody that can take center minutes in the regular season during the long haul of the regular season, so that, Al Horford never has to play back-to-backs. You can give Porzingis games off every now and then, not have to worry if Horford's playing that night, because you need them both rested. So somebody, an Isaiah Stewart and Andre Drummond, someone that can spell a lot of regular season minutes, even if they're playing sparingly in the playoffs, a la Daniel Tice in the 2022 run. Come in for a 5-minute stretch, give him some minutes, get some fouls and rebounds. So, but yeah, I think scoring guard that's a versatile two-way defender as well is the main objective for the Celtics at the deadline.
I'm going to give Al Horford his flowers too while we're at it, because you mentioned he's the Giannis and he's the Embiid defender. I feel like nobody in the sports media gives him that recognition of, he's able to actually stop Embiid, or stop, not completely stop them from scoring, but he does arrest them from scoring. He's actually a force on the floor. We've seen in the playoffs a ton when Horford goes up against Embiid, and then when the Celtics beat the Bucks, Horford was a big part of that. So I think he doesn't get enough recognition for that as well. So, but before we wrap up, I do want to talk about other teams and what they could do. I know we've talked a little bit about what Milwaukee and the Heat would do if they made acquisitions. Is there any other teams in the East that if they acquired a Donovan Mitchell, if they acquired a Lauri Markkanen or a Jordan Clarkson, do you see any other team besides the Celtics or the Bucks or Heat being a threat to the Celtics?
So historically, it's just hard to take the Sixers seriously as a threat, just because we've seen it every single year. And so until they prove me wrong, it's hard to take them seriously. And I don't think LaVine's that guy. I think LaVine is going to basically look like James Harden over there, especially come playoff time. But and I don't think they even have the assets to do it, but if they were to get someone like a Donovan Mitchell, if they were to get someone like a Marcus Smart, that would definitely, make them more respectable as an opponent. So I just can't see outside of, the Sixers, I guess we'll put them borderline, but outside of Milwaukee and Miami, I just can't see any other team in the East that could beat the Celtics in a series. Like Orlando, up until this past week, they had our number, but they were never going to beat us in a series where you're playing, every single game, playoff atmosphere where you have time for adjustments. There's just too much of a talent differential. The Knicks, they just don't have the talent. I love Jalen Brunson. They have the salary of Julius Randle. Maybe they could package with RJ Barrett and they can go get Donovan Mitchell. But then if you do that, they're still, they're very thin at that point. I just can't think of any other team in the East. Indiana's not there yet. I feel like Indiana right now is almost where Sacramento was last year, where they're a fun regular season team. They're going to have the win total that Sacramento had last year, but it was too early for them. And then Cleveland, I feel like they could blow this up. So I just can't see. I think Milwaukee and Miami are there at the end, and I'm hoping they play each other in the second round or first round. So, that we get them when they're all banged and bruised, which is another reason I want to play Miami. It's not just because of fear. It's because even though I think right now, out of respect, I'll say 6. I think it would go 5. But that's a team that's going to beat you up, that's going to play hard the whole time. They're not going to just quit like, the Nets in the year that we swept them, where that just team was just mentally not tough enough. The Heat are a mentally tough team. And so playing someone like that early in the playoffs can really wear you down.
So this is tough. If I had to choose a team, I think it'd be the Knicks, because the last couple of years since the Knicks got Brunson, I think they played us relatively close. Not to say that they've ever I feel like the Knicks could completely beat us in the 7-game series, but I think the Knicks pose an interesting challenge with their young guards and Brunson and Randall. And I do think they're a piece away. Obviously, they do have a ton of picks. I believe they have 5 or 6 first-round picks. So in theory, if they wanted to make a splash, they could get Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, Barrett would probably be on the way out, maybe even Randall. But if they could keep Randall, Brunson, and they can acquire Mitchell with Grimes, DiVincenzo, and everybody else that they have, I think, that poses an interesting threat to us. I don't think they'll acquire Mitchell this year. I don't think he's really going to be going anywhere. I think Cleveland eventually wants to fix what's going on over there. But I think that would be an interesting case if I'm not picking Milwaukee or the Heat. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. But I don't know. I mean, I think the Knicks could pose, maybe not. Maybe if it's not this year, even next year.
Yeah, the Knicks, and it's interesting to think about. I mean, it's just how do they get Donovan Mitchell financially? I mean, obviously you can have the draft incentives, and obviously it's where he's from, so you could think you're going to keep him long term. But how do you get him there and not diminish the team you already have enough where he makes enough of an impact? Because if you watch the Knicks, Jalen Brunson's amazing, but Julius Randle, his shot selection, especially at the end of games, is really, really bad. RJ Barrett, he's losing the ball a lot. So, I mean, Jalen Brunson's the head of that snake. The problem is he's undersized. So when you have, someone like a Drew Holiday on him that's 6'4", that's in his face, someone like Derek White that's 6'4", like having another scoring option where he's not going to get trapped and you're going to throw it to RJ Barrett, you're going to throw it to Julius Randle, and they're going to take some horrible three. Having someone like Donovan Mitchell that can hit that shot, that can make tough shots. So, I mean, they can get him without depleting that roster. That definitely moves them up another echelon. But until that happens, I mean, I think that's kind of the only player that can really elevate them that's realistically available.
I agree. We'll see what happens. I don't think he's going to be going anywhere in Cleveland. I think, at least not this year, I don't think. Maybe in the summer, but, as of right now, I think he stays put. But, I think that wraps it up for what we have for today. Is there any final thoughts you have about, the upcoming trip or anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
I just want to say, watching the state of the other Boston sports teams, minus the Bruins, should be very thankful to have these Celtics. Having been in college during the beginning of the Big Three Celtics and after, you don't realize how special having a team like this is until it's not intact anymore. And it looks like we could just be at the start of our dynasty right now. All things, if luck goes our way, if health goes our way. So just trying to take it all in, go through the process and enjoy the moments because the season's flying by. We're already, towards the end of December, we're already a third of the way through the season. I remember, it's like when we got Drew Holiday, the season was just about to start, and that was 2 months ago. It goes by fast. So just creating good habits, good health, getting that extra piece to put us over the top. And it's been a fun season. Hopefully it continues to be a fun season. I'm looking forward to this week, and go Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I feel like people sometimes they take, for granted of the teams that we have, for this team. It kind of reminds you of like the Patriots past 20 years. We've been, completely dominant, winning, a ton of Super Bowls. And with this Celtics team, something feels different. Seems like this team, we got to enjoy it this year, embrace every game. You don't want to wish for the playoffs too much because then when they come, and it ends however it ends, then you're like, damn, like season's already over. But it should be a good season. Just hoping for good health, and I guess we see what happens. So I think that will do it for us on our first episode. It's definitely a fun one. You guys can follow us on YouTube at BSEN 617, and then on Twitter or X, as whatever you want to call it, at Dynasty Proud 18. We will eventually get a picture up there and everything all set. So I believe that does it for our first episode of Dynasty Proud.
Have a great week, everybody.